and welcome. All there's four of you now. Yay, people are coming in. But I'm not going to hang around. Just so you know, I will be starting on time because we have a lot to get through. And, I've already added one extra class. If I feel like it, I may even add another one, because this is my first time actually teaching the course live. So I'm always adapting and shifting it. And as I see it needs, and I think we need a lot more focus on the basics, and I will explain why going forward. But first of all, let's just all breathe out with a sigh, a gentle sigh. Breathe all your breath out, both feet on the ground. And allow the breath to come back in. Let's do that a couple of times. Allow the breath out, all the breath out with a gentle sigh. And just allow the breath to come back in when it's ready. None of this, let's take a deep breath thing. This is far more gentle. And Angela's not able to be on live today. But Angela is an Alexander technique instructor, for those of you that don't know what she does. And I have studied Alexander technique myself, so I learned this from both her and another teacher at one point. But this different way of breathing is very, very powerful. And I'm not here to teach you that, but I'm just here to help you ground as we go in, because this is big work you're doing here. So I'm going to talk a lot more about the basics. I'm just going to rattle for a moment. If you notice, my rattle is, this is elk hide. This was brought to me by my beautiful friend Paula, who was also my shamanic teacher. And I'll just make sure my sound's loud enough. There we go. And it's actually got moonstone here as well. Isn't this beautiful for me? And this is a found deer leg, cleaned deer leg that was found in the woods. So no animal was deliberately killed for this record. Well, I'm not sure about that, but there we go. Anyway, and I pulled a card for today, for this session. I do believe in getting us in the right place so we can receive this energy. And the card I pulled was the Magus. Magic, the magician. Now, he is about communication and timing, but I want to read to you the quote in the book I have about this card. Language shapes consciousness, and the use of language to shape consciousness is an important branch of magic. And that's from Dreaming in the Dark by Starhawk. Astrology is a language, okay? And it's kind of like learning, to speak French or Spanish or German or whatever. You can learn parts, you can learn bits, and you can learn phrases and sentences. But the real power in getting fluent is immersing yourself in it. And that's why you will be on this class doing a lot of work with your charts and other people's charts. I would really love it if you don't just stick to your chart. Of course, it's up to you. I'm not going to be keeping track or slapping anybody on the wrist or anything. I'm not even going to keep track of who has done the homework or whatever, because it's up to you. You're all grown-ups. But I studied astrology for years and years and years and mostly studied my own chart, but I did not really start to understand astrology until I leapt out of my comfort zone and started doing other people's charts. Now, whether you want to become a paid astrologer or not is beside the point. I will also say that the most in-depth learning of doing charts was when I started an exchange of energy for doing charts. Okay. Until then, it just felt like playing at it. There was kind of more skin in the game for both for me and the person who I was doing it for. Now, this, could be, a little trade for you, or if it's making it part of your work. I was thinking of Bridget, who's going to, hi guys. I was thinking of Bridget, who's going to implement it with her design work. Now, that's fabulous use of astrology. So that's why you will be practicing charts. So you will be repeating some of what we did this week. I would ask you to pick a different chart and go deeper with what we talk about today. So first of all, I do want to return to the element analysis. Now, maybe I need to create my own chart, not just use the one that I had before, but I don't think I do. So this is the chart I would like you to use. Now, I actually tend to use the North Node more. But for those of you that keep coming in and saying, what exactly is this? Like, how is it exact? I will say that astrologers disagree on all these things. So you have to find what's right for you. You have to decide whether, this fourth house cusp is important for you. The thing is, I've been doing astrology now for so long that I don't sit down and count these out the way it is now. Because I've seen so many charts, I look at the charts and get the immediate feel for it, okay? And you will eventually. But the way you start is by doing these kind of practices. So let's just use this chart for now, and let's use for well, I don't know what the word is. For the sake of everybody being on the same page, that's the one. Let's use these, okay? And the chart totals. However, I will say I now use Chiron and Lilith because I find them very important and Ceres. Sorry, the three. Because not only do I find them really important, and there are other important parts as well, but I am more and more, and this is I'm not the only one, but it's not been written in many books yet. I'm not the only one who's coming to see Chiron as ruling Virgo, Ceres as ruling Taurus, and Lilith as at least co-ruler of Scorpio with Pluto. So I like to count them in element and modality analysis. So I'm going to go through a couple of charts, and I don't want anybody to get offended if I don't share your chart. I think we'll get around everybody's charts eventually, but I can't take the time to go through everybody's chart every week. So let's just look in terms of Alice's chart for now, in terms of the elements. Okay. Okay. Where's my little chart? So whether you add 1 or 2 for the ascendant, sun and moon is different. Astrologers do it differently, but let's do it from this perspective from the chart exactly. Okay. So, fire. We have 1 in Aries, 2, 3, and I'm looking at the angles. So we have Chiron, Ceres, and Neptune in fire. So I'm going to say 3 fire, and I'm looking in the first total, just using the chart totals. And I know that the element analysis thing I gave you says use numbers in boxes at top left of chart. But my teacher used matrix software and was very stuck on it and taught only from that. I use Solar Fire, I use AstroGold, and I have another program I use, and some of them do that chart and some don't. So, but I find it healthier to start looking for yourself than having a little box that the computer works out for you. So use these AstroGold charts unless you're creating another one from astro.com from somebody else. But get used to looking for yourself, okay? So there's just 3 in fire. There's no, none of the, there's no sun, moon, ascendant, south node, or nadir in fire. Okay. So then we go to Earth. So I count the planets. So 1, Mars in Taurus. I'll ignore the north node because we're using the chart. So I'll do this. I'll do it that way. 1, 2, Lilith. 3, 4 in Virgo. So Earth, 4. Okay. Air, 1, 2 in Aquarius. 3, 4 in Libra. 5 in Libra. So that's 5. We'll go to the extra bits in a minute. Okay. And water. She has 1, 2, water, 2. So now we go for the sun. The sun is in Earth, so we add 2 for that. For the moon, she has moon in Aquarius, which is air, so we add 2 for that. It's all about understanding these symbols. You're becoming a symbologist, okay? And water, sorry, the ascendant is in water, so we add 2 for that. South node is in water, so we add 1 for that, so plus 1. And the nadir is in air, so we add 1 for that. So when I add that up, that's 3 in fire, 6 in earth, 8 in air, and 5 in water. Okay, so that would make Alice primarily earth, primarily air, earth second, water third, and fire fourth. Okay. I was going to say last, but I don't think there's any such thing as last. Now, there are other ways to look at things as well, and we're going to talk about focalizers and importance of planets in different things. But, you know, the more you just practice using a table like this, it doesn't matter if it's exact. It's getting the feel for it, if that makes sense. So the same with cardinal, with the modalities, really. You could look at the same chart for modalities. You could put the cardinal fixed and mutable on the left of that element analysis chart. Let's go back to that. and add up the modalities for that. You know, you might over time think the North Node is more important, which kind of I kind of do, though in a way I can see the point of this chart, because the South Node is what we come into this life with. So it's kind of where you're going, I guess. With me doing the more and more charts, I don't really do natal readings as such anymore, because I just find them to be a description of character. I do more transits, progressions, what's going on, where you're going to, where you're headed. I help people get where they're going. So I look more to the North Node because I'm where I'm going. But let's keep to the South Node for now. Over time, like me, you will look at a chart and you'll look around and you'll just know that it's like more fire, more air, more earth. But you need to look at a lot of charts to do that. So I want you each to both look at another chart and just at least do the count. Okay, even if you don't take the time to really think about what it finishes. And then get a feeling for the hi Seren, and then get a feeling for the hemispheres and the quadrants again. Again, I'm not asking you really to do, but you know, I'm happy to read a page-long analysis too. Oh goodness, my phone never rings, and there it is. So ignore it. Of course, it sails. Maybe I should unplug it. Unplug it. Anyway, just ignore it. It'll go away in a second. So I hope that kind of clears up the counts a little bit. I know, Bonnie, you asked several times about the counts. Does that help you at all to going over that again? But the sun, the moon, and the ascendant are really important. I was kind of adding on one extra point for them, but you can add 2 as well. Okay. Alice missed the count on her chart. She can look at the recording. Anyway, I just wonder if that helps you, Bonnie, as particularly, and everybody. You feel free, if you've got the chat up, to type yes if it makes it a little bit clearer. Okay. But you can also, like I said, do the modalities down there. You could change that to do your own little table. Do a little table for each chart you look at first. Sketch it out. Do, you know, the chart totals, just the basic planet count. Okay, down in this one. Well, there's no wrong. Really, there's no wrong. I just probably didn't explain it clearly. Okay, so that's why I'm adding an extra week. And it is my first time teaching this, so I learn by what's not being received very well by... I didn't actually add up the whole number. So 14, 19, 22. I guess it would be 22, the way we're doing it now. Yes, it would always come to 22. I count Ceres, Lilith, and Chiron. And because I'll be talking about those 3 in this level 1 course a lot, because I consider those 3 to be really important in the chart now, let's include them. So, yeah, but as I said, Bonnie, after a while, when you've looked at lots and lots of charts, you won't be worried about whether it all comes to 22 or not. You will be able to look. This is practice, 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 to start looking at the symbols and just absorbing them and getting a big understanding of the symbols. After a while, you'll be able to look at, like Alice's chart, like I did, and you'll just look at it and scan it and look at the angles, and you will go, oh yeah, that girl's really airy. You know, primarily, at least, and you won't have to go and do the count after much practice. But we're teaching you to practice and get in it. You know, if I did this for every chart reading I do now, then I would spend hours and hours preparing for a chart reading, which I used to do. But now I don't have to because I've integrated it so much. So, yes, please, for this week, if all of you could go and pick a different chart that you did last week and just do the element and modality counts just to get practice looking at it, and do the hemispheres and just the hemispheres, really, the north, south, east and west. You don't need to do a separate reading for each quadrant. And just do, again, a little paragraph about this person's primarily air, blah, 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 just to give you more feeling to doing it, okay? Because the more you do, the better you'll get. You can listen to me as much as you like, but it's practice that makes perfect, okay? And same reading books. You know, you can read every book, and again, you still doesn't really go in until you start diving in deeper. So I am actually going to kind of going to be half reading and things for a little bit now, because I wanted to talk about some stuff from this book. Okay, I'll stop share so you can see it, and I will look at a couple more charts in a bit. But this is, if anybody really wants to get a really basic, good book that talks about a lot of what I'm talking about, this is a fabulous book by Stephen Forrest. I've done workshops with Stephen and been lucky enough to go to a small private workshop in person. I've done a lot of his online stuff. I think I've got all his books. And whilst he is an evolutionary astrologer, and evolutionary astrology is what I practice, basically. There are kind of two schools of evolutionary astrology. My main teacher, Maridel, was an apprentice. I don't know how I can help her. I don't know why she has trouble. Where is she? What trouble is she having? Because everybody else is getting in. Invite. Okay.
I'm not sure I understand.
You had trouble too. Why did you have what did you have trouble with, Alice? Can I unmute you, Alice, so I can talk to you and find out what's... Oh, hang on.
There we go. The link just wasn't, the password wasn't working. I typed it, and then somebody put in the Facebook group a link that they pasted, and then I got right in. But it took a dozen tries. So I don't know what I was doing wrong.
Well, can somebody tag...
Yeah, Kimberly posted it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Can somebody tag Faye on that link and ask her to use that link? And I think I'll create a new link for the coming weeks without a password.
It's all a mystery to me.
Well, if somebody could just go in the Facebook group and say, hey, Faye or Barbara, could you do that? Say, use Kimberly's, this link that's Kimberly's. Because I've used these password things a million times before. And, or can I find... Hello?
Yeah, hi, Louise. This is Barbara. I tried sending her a link and it didn't work. So I'm sorry. I tried and I used Kimberly Mitchell's link directly to the Zoom and was able to get in myself. And I told her to look for that comment. So I'm not sure where she's at and trying to get in. She just said it keeps.
Sorry,
maybe she made it. Yeah, I just told her that they're trying to work on her link. But Kimberly Mitchell posted a comment that took you straight in through Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah,
and hopefully she'll find that comment.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Can somebody tag her by that? But I'm going to actually send her an email.
Yeah, and I don't know
I'm going to actually
How to
send.
do that? I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'm actually going
Tried
to.
it.
It's okay. I'm actually going to. Faye.
I'll mute myself again. Okay, I am
Okay.
muted.
I'm actually going to try
Oh,
and find
muted.
her email address and send her an email. You tagged her. Thank you, Kimberly. Because I do not understand it because I've used these things a million times. So, okay, so. But I think from next week, so if you all of you will bin after this week, if you will bin this link. Oh, I can't find her email address now. Oh, Passion Press. Okay. Thank you. Of course, now everything's going slow. So bear with
Louise,
me.
it just popped up that she joined.
Oh, she's joined. Okay. I'm just going to close down a
Did
lot.
you hear that?
I did, yeah.
It said she joined.
She's joined. Okay, great. Sorry about that, Faye. I'm just saying that for next week, I am going to create a new link for all subsequent classes, and I am going to ditch the password, even though I've used passwords a million times. So sorry about that. Anyway, I really don't know what was going on. So I use Zoom a lot too. The only thing I can, I mean, and I've used the password thing for so often too. So ditch this link. I'm going to create a new one for next week and all the subsequent weeks. That will be the same link, and I won't use a password. And hopefully there'll be no future problems. All I can say is that things have been very Mercury retrograde-ish, and we're going into a Mercury retrograde. But I think it's easier to do that. So you know, Faye, so far we have gone over the elements and modalities again and the count. And we're going to use a consistent way. I realize I was a little bit woolly about it. I didn't show you the element sheet as I was doing it. And that's really because I'm learning how to really teach this clearly as we go as well. So does anybody have any questions on those elements and modalities before we go any further? I want you all to go through and do what you did with a chart, with a different chart before next week. I always use Chiron. And let's use the south node. Let's not use both. Let's stick to the element analysis thing. I do use Chiron, I use Lilith, and I use Ceres because I think they're important in the chart. And I am going to be including those in all this class. I actually also kind of probably bring in a few more bits as well now. But as I was saying to everybody before you managed to get on, okay, I'll talk to that in a second. Yeah. I actually don't do the count anymore. But once you've done as many charts as I have and looked at as many charts, you won't need to sit down and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what I'm getting, what the practice of doing these counts is doing, is getting you to really start to look at the chart as a whole and to get the feel for it. Okay. And once you've done a million, I can look at a chart now and go, this person's mostly air, without going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It just, because there are so many factors, and we'll be bringing in some more factors today. Okay, so how do I interpret then there is equal counts in modalities and elements? Lorraine asks. I say this person is both air and earth, you know, a real balance between air and earth, because that's what they are. You know, say it was air and earth, you know, and I might think about the actual elements themselves. Like, for example, if somebody is very fire and air, I would think about what fire and air do together, about how the wind, the air fans the flames of fire, and so on and so forth. And, you know, if somebody is very, is equally earth and water, you know, you might say they can be a little bit muddy. They can be, you know, they can get very stuck down in their emotions and things, and not be able to think very clearly, if you like. So get a feeling for what these things mean to you. You'll find with astrology there is no kind of right, wrong. There are certain things that are, you know, absolute, of course. And astrology is math, and that's why we need the birth time and all those kind of things. But my aim for you is to really kind of get you immersed in what it feels like. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Does that answer your questions? Okay, I'll carry on. Now, I actually want to read a little bit from Stephen's book today about principles of astrology, because I talked a little bit about where I came from, and he does some excellent 7 principles of astrology. Okay. And I actually think they're really excellent. So he says 7 fundamental ideas form the backbone of any growth-oriented vision of astrology. And that's what I do. A lot of traditional astrology is not growth-oriented. A lot of traditional astrology doesn't talk about evolution of the soul, which is what evolutionary astrology does. And, you know, a lot of that is what I talked about, going to just personality description, or it's mundane astrology has a great place. I'm not criticizing any forms of astrology. And you, if you decide to pursue astrology, might choose to go down a different path. But I really look at what he calls growth-oriented vision of astrology, because I think it's all about personal growth and evolution. Okay. I don't do the fatalistic, this is being done to you kind of astrology either, and neither does Stephen. So 1, astrological symbols are neutral. There are no good ones and no bad ones. I agree completely. 2, individuals are responsible for the way they embody their birth charts. You may hear me saying that on my page all the time. And about transits, where what's happening now in the sky, how that affects your birth chart. You are responsible for the way you embody it and how you respond and react. Okay. 3, no astrologer can determine a person's level of response to his birth chart from that birth chart alone. That's where the free will all comes in, you see. 4, the birth chart is a blueprint for the happiest, most fulfilling, most spiritually creative path of growth available to the individual. I have no problem with that one at all. That's my whole kind of thing, that, you know, we really are here for this creative path of growth, spiritually creative path of growth. 5, all deviations from the ideal growth pattern symbolized by the birth chart are unstable states, usually accompanied by a sense of aimlessness, emptiness, and anxiety. Now, he's a Capricorn, so he's very firm and exact about this, but I would agree with him to a degree. If you are not following your soul's evolutionary path, if you decide to take the low road, and you know, there are other modalities that would help you do this, but that's where unhappiness, emptiness, anxiety, and things can occur. 6. Astrology recognizes only two absolutes, the irreducible mystery of life and the uniqueness of each individual viewpoint on that mystery. Okay. So you have to remember that whenever you're looking at a chart for a person, if you're talking to them about it, that their response will be unique too, and their own viewpoint on it will be unique. But that doesn't mean you can't help them through it. 7. Astrology suffers when wedded too closely to any philosophy or religion. Nothing in the system matters except the intensification of a person's self-awareness. Okay. So that's really what it's about. And he goes on to say things like astrological symbols are not nouns, they are verbs. So I'm not a Sagittarius. I am Sagittariusing, if you like. I am becoming a Sagittarius and Sagittariusing. He says he's Capricorning, you know. This is the heart of astrology. He says, leave fatalism and rigidity to the fortune tellers. And this is where I come from. If you want fatalism and things, then we're probably not really a great fit, but I doubt it. You know, I doubt that all of you are fatalists. So the birth chart's a remarkable tool, and to use that tool, you must learn a lost art. You're becoming a symbol reader or a symbologist. Okay. Interpretation is the heart of astrology, weaving together the messages of the signs, houses, planets, angles, aspects, all these things. And that's what I'm encouraging you to start doing. We're only in a level 1 class. You know, astrology is endless. I will do further classes if any of you want to work with me further. But this is the basis of astrology for me, weaving together, seeing how they interlace, seeing how they flavor one another, all the signs, planets, signs, houses, everything, how they come together, how they undercut one another. It's kind of an art, really. Interpretation is not a scientific procedure, not something to be memorized, though you do have to memorize the symbols, you know, or you're going to be spending an awful lot of time looking them up. But again, the more you practice doing like the symbol, the counts, the element counts and the modality counts and the hemisphere things, the more of those you do. In fact, if you want to be, you know, if you want to grow your practice really fast, spend the next week doing one a day. Don't spend too long on it. I'm not going to go, oh, you used the wrong word here to describe this hemisphere thing, because it's an art. You may use completely different words to me, but I want you to practice. And I will point out, like, somebody got, you know, the hemispheres mixed up or something. Some of the east and the west. Somebody got the east on the right and the west on the left. I will point that out. But I'm not here to judge you. I will point out, you know, if there's a slight technicality that's wrong, or I may make a suggestion for a deeper reading. But I just want you to practice, and I want you to feel safe. So again, no doing that to each other either. No judging. Okay, maybe a suggestion is different. But anyway, interpretation is not a scientific procedure, not something to be memorized. It's not mechanical. It's not a skill one acquires like learning to rebuild carburetors or to solve different equations. The element of creativity or inspiration or of intuition is the vital spark at the core of the system. Without it, one can never derive meaning from a birth chart. Okay. Now, I'm not going to read the whole chapter to you, but I just felt he described this better than I had been doing. Okay, perhaps. And that's not a judgment on myself either. As I said, I am learning how to teach this, and you're getting a lot of me. You're getting a lot more than any future classes will, because this is my first class. So the sky is the astrology's prime symbol, which is why he calls this book The Inner Sky, because it is, we look up. I was out there this morning with my Sky Guide app, okay, looking for Venus and Jupiter. Unfortunately, we have big mountains to the east, so I couldn't see a thing. And the sun was starting to come up before Venus went over above the mountains. So I did not get to see Venus and Jupiter. But I would suggest you all get an app that tells you where the planets are, and just really look up now and again. I'm not saying get out there all the time. I actually have two. You can choose them. Sky Guide is good. Star Walk 2 is another one I've got. There are lots. This Solarium is another one. There's a lot of apps that do this. I think there's free ones. You just search, astronomy app or something on your phone, and start to get a feeling of where your planets are at all times as well. That's not a homework. This is just a suggestion, because this is what it's all about. It's about how what's up there affects what's in us. I happen to think it's all connected, but that's a whole philosophy, and I'm not going to go there. So now, today, we are going to start talking about focalizers. Okay. Now, theory has it, some teachers think that there is a focalizer in a chart. I happen to think there's probably more than one, but we need to determine strengths of planets. Okay. Because, we do the element analysis and we do the modality analysis, and that's needed. Absolutely, of course, it's needed. Oh, hang on. I've got Rose messaging me as well. Is she having trouble getting in? Oh, I'll okay, no, that's not for now. Okay. I'm going to go put my phone away now, because if I get tagged and it keeps popping up, then I'll get distracted and that Gemini moon will be off. So really, we need to kind of start to look. We don't want to look at the individual meanings of the planets right away. Okay, I know it's tempting. I am actually going to, with full credit to Stephen, I am going to give you a table of archetypes, okay, because his table of archetypes is really good as well. But I don't want you to get focused on those too much, first of all. He does he does a table of archetypes based on the signs, and then he looks at the sun, moon, and ascendant. Okay, so I'm going to look at somebody else's chart for this, and I will get pictures of this or scans of this or something and put it in the group so you can look. But he would say Angela has the sun in Sagittarius. So she's the gypsy, the student, the philosopher. And then we look at the soul. Okay, so that is who the person is. Okay, so that's the ego. Then we look at the soul, we look at the moon. So her moon is also in Sagittarius. So she has the soul of the gypsy, the student, the philosopher. And then her rising sign is the mask. And her mask is that of the detective, sorcerer, or hypnotist. So he describes it as a bit of fun, but it does help you to absorb that, to do the kind of a sentence. What page in the book? Okay, well, nobody else has the page, but it's 220, the book, but it's 220. Okay, but I'm going to do a scan of it for everybody else in the thing. Okay. And then, as I said, we go and we observe the hemispheres, okay, and the elements and the modalities and get a general feel, okay. And then we look at the strength of planets and the planetary focalizers. I like that he says focalizers. So I'm going to go through this. Her sign of the mask was Scorpio, yes. The ascendant is the mask. I call it the receptionist. He calls it the mask. I don't like mask because that kind of implies that you're hiding behind something, whereas the receptionist is just what you, the kind of face you put on when you first meet somebody, or the face they see when they first meet you. You're not really putting it on because it is a big part of you. And then there's this whole other stuff behind it. Okay. But if mask works for you, that's good. Yeah, that's Scorpio for her. But we have focalizers. So focalizers are important planets in the chart. Yeah, I'll be talking about stelliums as we go through this whole focalizer thing. Okay. I have stellium, massive stellium too. So every birth chart has at least one focalizer. Okay. And picking it out is easy because it's the ruler of the ascendant. So in Angela's case, one of her focalizers, or her main focus, her first focalizer, let's call it, not main, is Pluto, because it rules Scorpio. I would also say Lilith is a focalizer. And if you have, okay, I'll talk about traditional and modern rulers as well as we go through. I would actually say 3. Okay, because Mars, and maybe, I don't know if I gave you a list of rulerships. Mars is the traditional ruler of, oh, sorry, I'm not referring, no, that's a different thing, and I'm not even going to go into what that is right now. Sorry, I'm not sharing the screen. Okay. This is focalizers. And this is the ruling planet. Sorry, I wasn't even sharing the page. But anyway, Angela has Scorpio rising. All right. So Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio. So that is her ruling planet. I would also say her Mars is really important because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. And I would actually say that Lilith has an importance as well as what I would call a bit of a modern day ruler of Scorpio as well. So we look at, let's have a look at another sign, another chart. Some astrologers would totally disagree with me about Lilith, by the way. So feel free to see if that feels good for you or not. I really have a big connection with Lilith, probably because she's conjunct my moon. And so I feel her in a lot of things, and I feel her very 8th house Scorpio. So that's me. So Barbara has Cancer rising. So the moon is the traditional and the modern ruler of Cancer. So her moon is really important and would be described by most astrologers as her ruling planet. And her moon is up there in Gemini, up in the 11th house. So that's her ruling planet. I'm not going to go through everybody's chart, by the way. You can look at... Now, Virgo rising, Bonnie, ignore the Pluto for now. I'll be coming back to it. In fact, I might move on to that while we're here. But Mercury rules Virgo. And I was going to say Chiron rules Virgo too. So Mercury is over here in Pisces, is her ruling planet. But I'm also going to say that Chiron is a ruling planet for her too. And where's your Chiron? There it is. Chiron over there. And Chiron is important in her chart in so many ways. So that's a focalizer too. Okay. And I don't think I'll be talking about dispositors in this class at all, Faye. Sorry if I ignore some of your questions as we go forward, but, you know, I want you to get a good grounding in the basics and not go off into deeper astrology, more advanced astrological terms. Okay. Oh, that's all right then. let's ignore it. A focalizer is a planet that's important in a chart. Okay, it's a chart, it's a planet, and there's many ways you'll see. So the ruler of the ascendant, it's always a powerhouse. And, you know, as you can see, there may be more than one. Also, 3 signs have dual rulerships, he says, and that's what I've looked at. So let me see if anybody's got Pisces on the ascendant. There you go. Yeah, Chiron, it makes so much sense that Chiron rules Virgo to my mind, but anyway. So Bridget has Pisces rising. Well, and Pisces also has a modern and a traditional ruler. It has Neptune and Jupiter. So Neptune is Bridget's ruling planet, but Jupiter is also important. Okay. So let me make myself a note. Rulerships. My own table. So you can print that off too and keep that in your file. So I'll create a chart for you with planetary rulerships. So that's the first one, the ascendant. Okay. You consider kind of each of those planets as being important. And I would kind of, you know, when you're first kind of doing a bigger interpretation, and in fact, maybe add this on to your homework for doing a different chart, kind of look at focalizers in that chart as well. What planets are important? Okay. Next one is planets in their rulerships. So you'll need the rulership table of rulerships for that as well. So for example, if Pluto is in Scorpio, then that's a focalizer as well. If Mercury is in Gemini or Virgo, that's a focalizer. If Chiron is in Virgo, that also makes it very important. I'm just looking on Bridget's to see if she has any. And if you have any in their own signs. So let's go on to somebody else. So Casey's focalizer for her rulership, her ascendant is the moon. Okay, so her moon is very important, but she also has Pluto in Scorpio. So that makes Pluto really powerful and really important. So you look for planets in their rulerships too. Let me see. Do you have any? Saturn in Capricorn, Faye? Yes. Yep, exactly. That would apply. So that's in its rulership. So that makes your Saturn very strong. So, you know, it's just to start again getting a deeper feel of the whole chart. Each one should not be interpreted totally separately. It's still connected into the rest of the chart. But you would make a note that Saturn is a very important planet. Okay, I'm going to look at my chart actually. Your Mercury, let's have a look. Where's your Mercury? Well, yeah, because Mercury is your rules your for sure, because Mercury rules your ascendant. Sorry, I'm just looking for mine. Yeah, so yes, it would be a focalizer because it rules your ascendant. So first of all, make a note. If a planet rules your ascendant, it's a focalizer. If a planet is in its own sign or the sign that it rules, then it's a focalizer. Okay. So looking at my chart, I also have Saturn in Capricorn, so that's a focalizer. I have Jupiter in Sagittarius, so that's a focalizer also. Then I'm going to also add in any planets conjunct the Sun. Okay, so I have Jupiter conjunct the Sun. Yes, it's 7 degrees, but they're both big energies. So we'll talk more about orbs later. Don't ask me about orbs right now. Hold on, let me get to them. Okay, yeah, I will talk about that as well. So I'm on planets conjunct the Sun right now. Sorry, I don't know what Moon and Lilith just means. I'm not going to go through everybody's chart readings. Okay, so sorry, I don't know what that means when you just put. What is the significance of the focalizers? They're important planets. They have more weight in the chart than others. Okay, some people have one really weighty planet. Some people have more than one weighty planet. Some people have a lot of strong planets in their charts. Some have one, and that's kind of where their really main focus is in their life. Okay, if they have one focalizer, that's kind of the most important planet in their chart and probably kind of guides everything in their life. Okay. So planets conjunct the Sun. I'm not going to go there, Alice. I'm not going to go into the astronomy of it. Okay, sorry. I'm not going to go into perigees and apogees because that's really complex and beyond the scope of a level 1 class. Okay. Sorry. So I'm just seeing who else has a moon, anything conjunct the Sun. A lot of people probably, but let's have a look. I hate the way Adobe does this. There we go, Kimberly. You have Neptune conjunct the Sun. I would also say you have Venus conjunct the Sun. So and Mercury. I would say, you know, this is I'll go back to that in a minute. So I would say all these planets conjunct the Sun are also focalizers in your chart. So they have, like I said, some people have a lot of them. So planet conjunct the Sun. So any planet forming a conjunction with the Sun is a focalizer. The Sun is kind of the nucleus of personality. So any planet conjunct that will have a huge impact. Okay. The next, what is that symbol in your chart? In my chart, is that Bonnie? I don't have anything at 21 cap, so I don't know whose chart you were talking about. I'm just trying to look. 21 cap in the first. Oh, in phase. Okay. Okay. No. I'm not sure whose chart you were referring to. Sorry, Bonnie. If you ask a question, would you mind being really clear whose chart you're referring to and mine? oh, maybe it's the old chart before I took off some of the asteroids and things. It may have been one of the asteroids, and I'm not going to. That's why they were confusing people. So I reposted the charts and took out a lot of asteroids. So I'm not even going to talk about that either. Sorry, because it's level 1. Okay. I assume you mean me by yours. I'm sorry. When you ask a question and you say yours, I'm not sure whether you mean me or whether you're chatting to each other, just to be clear. And Faye, I'm not sure what your comment, Sarah, means. Sarah's, do you mean? Anyway, let's move on. So we have the ruler of the ascendant is always a focalizer. Planets in their rulerships are always, are always focalizers. Planets conjunct the sun are always focalizers. Stelliums. A stellium occurs when 3 or more planets all occupy the same sign or house. Considering that there are only 10 planets, but we're adding more, such a pattern represents an unmistakable concentration of mental energy, or of energy, I would say. Even if the planets are individually weak, their presence in a stellium grants them membership in an alliance that exerts monumental influence over the tone of the birth chart. My 4 planets in Sagittarius, including my ascendant, since my chart was rectified. Rectification, by, if those that don't know, is where if you're not sure of your birth time, there's a way of working out the time of birth by major events in your life. And when I went to an astrology conference a couple of weeks ago, I got together with a couple of astrologers, and I'd always not been sure of my birth time, and my birth time has now changed. My ascendant has now changed from 222 Capricorn to 28 Sagittarius. Believe me, it puts a whole different feel on the chart. But as you can see, my Capricorn is still strong anyway. But yeah, so I have a big stellium in my chart. Okay. The stellium itself becomes a focalizer, and the needs of that sign or the events of that house become dominant features in the individual's experience. Often the sun is involved in a stellium with Venus or Mercury, because all the 3 of those kind of track each other all the time. With retrogrades, Venus and Mercury swap as to whether they are before or after the sun and how close they are. But that's a whole new level. But Venus and Mercury follow the sun's track closely, so they either one or both is usually included in a stellium. Okay, they never wander very far from the sun. But there are other stellia too. There can be a stellium with 3 strong planets all in a sign that doesn't involve the sun, Mercury, or Venus, but they often do. Whatever planets are involved, analysing a stellium can be tricky. The watts of the individual planets may be quite incompatible. Oh yeah. Short circuits. Well, I think this is what this is speaking to, about the planet. I'm not sure what you mean by short circuit. Can you add nodes to stellium? I would, yeah. Yeah, I can add, I think I would include a node. Particularly if there's 4 planets. Okay. But by short circuit, I wonder if you mean because the energies are not quite compatible, perhaps. I'm not. It's just a huge concentration. For instance, my stellium is all personal planets. Okay. Okay, yeah. on MH. I'm not sure what that means. On midheaven. Okay, heavy stellium on midheaven. Well, maybe the different planetary energies really contradict each other and are very incompatible. Like I was just saying. Okay, you know, for me, I have very personal planets. I'll talk to that in a second, Barbara. Okay, and I'll perhaps find a chart that has it. Okay, so mine are all personal planets. So this just makes me really personally very, very, and I'll talk about personal and things more as well. But say if I had Pluto and Uranus in a stellium, that can be quite contradictory, okay, and probably make life kind of a little bit more difficult. But we all have challenges anyway. Let me see if anybody has a stellium with the nodes in. Well, I don't know if anybody has a stellium with nodes in. Nodes, nodes, nodes. Sorry. Oh, of course, I should have looked at yours, Bonnie, because you asked the question. So, Barbara, Moon's nodes are, this is the North Node, and this is the South Node. And the nodes are the 2 points where elliptics cross. Okay, North and South nodes, yeah. And Bonnie has her South Node in her Pisces stellium. So I would count it, because she has a stellium, even if we don't count Chiron and the South Node, but I would add them in anyway, okay, because I think they do add to that strength of that Pisces stellium hugely. So Pisces in Bonnie's chart is really, really strong. Okay, really strong. In Scorpio. What's in Scorpio, Kim? Oh, you have a stellium with the South Node. Sorry, I didn't see the first bit. Let's have a quick look and then we'll move on. Or we're not going to cover all the material today. Oh, you did. Yeah, I missed yours. Yeah. So, yeah. So, see, Barbara, Kimberly has a stellium too. I would count, I would probably count the ascendant. I would count the angles in a stellium, yeah. Though I play that by what feels good, you know, Barbara. This was saying there's no actual absolutes, but I would include Scorpio, Kimberly's Scorpio midheaven in her stellium. So I would say she has 5 placings in Scorpio. The descendant, I don't count quite so much, unless it just felt right. I really want you guys to start trusting your ascendant, your intuition a little bit, as even Stephen Forrest says in his book, that's where the magic comes in, which is why I called the class Planetary Magic. Okay. But speaking of which, speaking of angles playing into stelliums, angular planets are also really, really important. They are power points as well. Any planet conjunct the angles is important. Okay. So, you know, stick with Kimberly because we're on her chart. She has 3. She has 3 stelliums, Kimberly, which, and, you know, she has earth and water, but she has 2 water stelliums. She has Scorpio on her midheaven and all this Scorpio here. And then she has all this Pisces right down here. And sorry, that's not on an angle. Sorry, I just got like, whoa, she's got 3 stelliums. Sorry, I got distracted off the angles by that. But I would say that she doesn't have any planets conjunct except Ceres. She has Ceres conjunct the descendant, Earth Mother. She attracts people in her life, or is attracted people to in her life who would make great Earth Mother energy, even if they're male or female. So, and also that's probably something that she doesn't see in herself, and that she needs to kind of no, not really. No, it's not really an earth kite pattern. It is a beautiful chart, yeah, but then again, I think everybody's chart's beautiful. Let's go to Caro's chart, which is for some reason really big. View, zoom. Okay, that's a bit better. That was helpful. Cool. I didn't think that there was a kite in that one, but anyway, I'll look back at Kimberly's in a second. Now there's a kite in Caro's chart. Oh yeah, that's a kite. This is a kite pattern with the opposition. Okay. So I was looking at for planets conjunct the angles. Now, really, Mercury is so her midheaven is at 16 degrees of Virgo, and Mercury is 7 degrees away. But because Mercury rules Virgo, so I'm going to say that they are conjunct. It's quite a big degree apart, 16 to 23 degrees, going counterclockwise, anti-clockwise as always. But I'm going to say that that is conjunct, and that Mercury, and especially because it rules, or it's the old ruler of Virgo. So let's look at another chart. Yeah, I'm just looking for planets conjunct the angles right now. Okay. Now, Jennifer has her sun exactly conjunct her ascendant. Okay. So that is definitely very powerful. The sun's always powerful anyway, and that is exactly conjunct her rising sign, which makes it even more strong. Then she has Saturn and Jupiter conjunct her midheaven in Libra. They are in the kind of in the house behind, just a little hint, so that makes them slightly less strong. If they were this side, if they were at 12 and 13, even stronger. Okay. Flora, not so much. And of course, why would they be stronger? Let me go back. Well, it's just a feeling I have about them, because then they would be in the house that sign rules, Barbara. So this, in Jennifer's chart, this house, the 9th house, is ruled by Virgo because it's the sign on the cusp, and they are in Libra. Put them into the house ruled by Libra, it would make them even stronger. Does that make sense? Yes, cool. Okay, so Casey has Black Moon. It does, but to go back to, but in her chart, in Jennifer's chart, Virgo rules her 9th house because it's on the cusp of the 9th house. Jupiter rules the 9th house. by definition if you're looking not at an individual. So you have to combine all these things, Faye, that's the thing. But on an individual's chart, the sign on the cusp of the house rules that chart. Okay, rules that house. Sorry. Okay, so Virgo. Okay. But you would want to combine, because this is the natural house of Sagittarius and Jupiter. But for Jennifer, it's ruled by Virgo. And so you would want to combine the energies of Sagittarius, Jupiter, and Virgo for her, really, for in-depth analysis. But you'll get it the more charts you practice. And Libra. Well, yeah, but Libra, that's why I was saying Libra rules the 10th house, because it's not on the cusp. Okay. So that's why I was saying if Jupiter and Saturn were, say, at 12 and 13 degrees and conjunct the Libra midheaven, they would be even stronger because they would be in that house that's ruled by Libra. They are strong because they're conjunct the midheaven, but they would be even stronger. Some astrologers would even talk about Jupiter and Saturn as if they were in the 10th house. Let's go to my chart. You see, I have Scorpio midheaven with Venus and Neptune conjunct. Now they are at 6, 7, and 8 degrees. So that makes my Venus and Neptune really, really strong because they're in the house ruled by Scorpio. And they are, oh, I've just noticed another change. Since my ascendant changed, I'm getting used to my chart. A few things have changed. It's kind of weird, but it makes sense. Anyway, so they are in the house ruled by Scorpio, in the sign of Scorpio. So those two are really huge focalizers for me, even stronger than that one. But they are still focalizers. I'm probably going too far off the thing. And I don't, but angular planets are strong if they're conjunct an angle. I want to look at Bonnie's, because look at Bonnie's chart here. Okay, Bonnie has Pluto sitting right on her ascendant. It is in the 12th house, but a lot of astrologers would interpret it as a first house Pluto. Okay, with a bit of both. That's why I say there's no absolutes, because it's so close. You know, look at it, 3 degrees and 59 minutes and 4 degrees and 16 minutes. Whoever recorded the time on Bonnie's birth chart might have just been a few minutes off. You know, I've heard that, you know, the midwives and things in the hospitals, they often record the time after they've kind of clean the baby off and wrap them up, and they're not watching the clock at the time. So everybody's charts could be a couple of minutes off. So her, I'll go back to yours in a minute. Okay. I'll describe the qualities of Pluto in the first when we come to do the signs and things. You almost died at birth. That, it does not surprise me, because I wanted to talk about the fact she also has Mars on her descendant, okay, and Chiron. So the wound and Mars opposing Pluto, but all angular, all of them angular, okay. I'm not surprised she almost died of birth. It has great positive qualities. Wow, that does not surprise me. So it wouldn't surprise me if your time could be a little bit off as well, and your Pluto could be in the first house, and your Mars and your birth certificate just said baby girl. Wow. Wow. But you're here. Fabulous. You see, you can all learn from that, guys. Pluto, death and rebirth. Mars is also often, you know, associated with kind of accidents and dramatic events. And then there's Chiron, the wound or the point of healing. And that's an opposition on the birth line, because this is the birth line, the ascendant. It's the sign, as I was saying, on the horizon when you were born. To the east would have been Virgo at the moment she was born. And then have you been pretty much preoccupied with your health all your life, about staying healthy and, you know, that kind of thing? And was your mum preoccupied with your health after you were born? Anyway, I'll let you answer in a second. Yes, yeah. Not surprising, really, right? And some people would say it's the, of course she's preoccupied with her health. She almost died, but not everybody who did almost die at birth is, because she's preoccupied with the health and the healing. Chiron in Virgo, sorry, in Pisces, in the house ruled by Virgo. It's going to be about health and healing, pretty much, obsession almost, with Pluto. So fabulous chart for looking at planets on the angles. Okay. Other things that are important are, because I'd like to, actually I just want to look about phrases. So the importance of angular planets comes from the fact that angular houses are critical life shapers, the identity, the deepest drives, the most intimate relationships, and the destiny. That's another way of looking at these, by the way. Okay, so I'll repeat that in case you want to take notes. The identity, the deepest drives, the most intimate relationships, and the destiny or mission. Okay. Any planet involved in molding such sensitive issues is instantly placed on the center stage. Okay. Another focalizer, another way to find focalizers is what's called a singleton. And that's a planet that really lies alone in any of the four hemispheres. So do any of you know if you have a singleton? I should get my daughter's chart to show you all for next week for a really good example of a singleton. You see, I would say Barbara Kay, even though I'll look at that one, okay. Because Barbara Kay has, these two are only just over in the Western Hemisphere, because there's the east-west line. So I would say Chiron is pretty much a singleton. I would not include the nodes in that, okay. So your Chiron, I would say, is a focalizer for you because it's pretty much on its own out in the west, Barbara. Oh, your sun has, sorry, I wasn't looking at that. My daughter has one planet above the horizon. Okay, so that's a singleton for her. She's got quite an interesting chart, so maybe I'll show it at some point. Okay, you can kind of look at singletons just as another example. Like we have this line here. It's not exactly a hemisphere, but all my personal planets are over here. I'm very Eastern oriented, except for my sun, my moon over here, my moon and Lilith. I'd say my moon, Lilith together because the Lilith is connected with the moon. Okay, is the black moon. They are another focalizer. They are strong as well. They are another point of focus in the chart. So most astrologers, when they look at my chart, say that my moon is a focalizer because it's kind of the handle of what's called a bucket pattern. We'll probably talk about more bucket patterns in a minute. In other words, all my other planets are over here. Let's ignore the south node for now, actually. So going from Chiron to here, they're kind of over here, and the handle of a bucket is my moon and Lilith together. And so my moon is another focalizer. It's pretty much out on its own. Well, it's with Lilith, but that's the black moon. So stationary planets are also focalizers. Sorry, Rose, I haven't looked at your chart today. You'll see she has a stellium in Pisces. It's a wide stellium. Okay, she also has a stellium in Sagittarius. I'm just looking if you have any singletons. I'd say Saturn is pretty much a singleton. Yeah, for Rose. Because I would kind of pull Chiron, you know, they're not exactly over in this hemisphere over here or in this side of the chart, but Saturn is very much out on its own. But looking for stationary planets, okay, I'll go back to that. Sorry, I got a bit carried away there. So I don't know if any of you have it, but if any of you have a planet with an S next to it, you might. Okay, let's go and have a look at yours. Not even sure this software does it. SSS. It's fairly rare actually, and I would not count the nodes with this because the nodes go forward and backwards a little bit from our perspective, a lot. Yeah, I'm going to describe the stationary planet now. But if any of your planets have an S next to them, that means they were stationary, retrograde, or direct. So it's going to be like, it won't be the sun or the moon, okay? It will be like Mercury, most commonly is seen as a stationary planet in a chart. It's when they are standing still from our perspective, about to turn retrograde or direct. That is strength as well. Okay. It doesn't have quite the same electricity. We're getting kind of to the lesser ones now. You could consult an ephemeris to determine it. I think my Solar Fire software does it. Astro Gold probably does do it. I'm not finding anybody with an S next to any of their planets. But if you come across a chart with an S next to any of their planets, then that means it's stationary, retrograde, or direct. And any planet that is stationary, for example, Mercury is going to go, it's going to station retrograde on December the 3rd at 29 degrees of Sagittarius, right on my ascendant. Anyway, and that will make it very powerful. They're more potent when they are stationary. But I wouldn't make too much of it. Okay. Yeah, if it's retrograde, it has an R, but if it would have an S. No, stationary is not the same as retrograde. Stationary is the day it stations, the few hours that it seems to stand still before it goes retrograde. So that's why it's rare. That's why I'm not surprised that nobody has an S next to it. It's either the still point. I know there are so many details. That's why I'm not going over. All planets go retrograde. The sun and the moon do not, because they're not retrogrades. They're not planets. Okay. But yes, all planets go retrograde. The nodes go, I use the mean nodes to be, I don't want to confuse you, and they mostly travel retrograde all the time, but they do have stationary times where they appear to go direct. If there's an X, sorry, Bonnie, if there's an S on astro.com next to a planet, it would be like here, okay? There would be like S. That means stationing. It doesn't mean separating. It means still. You could say it means still. And any planet when it's stationary or still from our perspective, because of course they don't actually go backwards in the sky, it's just from our Earth-centric thing, then they are more powerful. But I almost am going to say, just remember it, file this away somewhere, that if you see that a planet is stationary, about to go direct or about to go retrograde on a chart, then it has a bit more powerful. Yeah, you can, I think there are online ephemerises now. And there is an app called iPhemeris that you could get, save you buying one. Anybody who wants to go deeper into the study of astrology should have an FM. There is a free one. Okay, there you go. So you could look up your planets. You could look up your date of birth. But again, don't get too stuck on if a planet's stationary. This is just another, I'm down in the less important range now. We started at what's really important in looking at the strength of planets, and now we're getting to what's significant but not as significant. Okay, if that makes sense. Strong aspects. Any planet that makes a great number of aspects is a focalizer. Why? Because it has a finger in everyone's pie. So, if a planet aspects lots of things, then we have to refer back to it in understanding the operation of other phrases or planets. So let's look, for example, on here, on this chart, on the one we're on. So Saturn really trines both Venus and Jupiter, and also opposes Chiron and Mars. So Saturn, to a degree, that's not a huge focalizer. There must be somebody with a lot more. Mine, I hate to go back to mine all the time, but I do have to, this is actually a good one, Angela's. I have to tell you my chart. When my teacher was picking sample charts, she often came back to mine. I have one of the weirdest charts ever in terms of strength. But the sun here, even though it's out of sign, is conjunct Mercury and conjunct Ceres, and aspecting a load of stuff out over here, this whole stellium, including Pluto, and aspecting Chiron over here. So, her sun, is a focalizer anyway, but it is. So this doesn't show all the aspect out. Okay, I'll talk about out of sign in a second. My moon really opposes everything in Sagittarius because they're all brought in together being a stellium. So that makes it a focalizer as well as being a singleton, because it aspects a lot of things, okay, over there. Out of sign aspects. I will go back to Angela's if I can't find anybody else's that's out of sign, because Angela's was a good. Okay. So it means it's not in the same sign. So her sun and her Mercury are conjunct to each other, but they are in different signs, because they are only 4, 5, 6 degrees apart, because there's 30 degrees in each sign. So you count counterclockwise up to 30 and then to Mercury. And I would also say, because her sun almost exactly squares Pluto in Virgo, but because of this out of sign conjunction with Mercury, I would say her sun also squares all this over here. Okay, even though they're out of sign in Libra. So a square would be always mutable sign to mutable sign, cardinal sign to cardinal sign, fixed sign to fixed sign, unless it's dragged in out of sign by other planets. Okay. In her case, I would say her sun squares Uranus and her sun squares Jupiter because of the makeup of her chart. Does that explain it? I don't want to complicate things too much for you guys, but I do want you to start really. No, I'm talking about signs, but I was just talking about squares in that one case. Okay, let me see if I can find one more. Okay. Let me see if I can find a trine or something, or a different aspect that goes out of sign. It's usually when there's strong stelliums, so I'm going to look for that. So there's a strong stellium here. There must be some out of sign aspects in this one. Maybe I'll find one for you and do it in. I'll get to that when I look at when we get to all the aspects. And yeah, I was just going to say a square is a 90-degree angle. Okay. A sextile is 60 degrees. A square is 90 degrees. A trine is 90 degrees. An opposition is 180 degrees. A conjunction is when 0 degrees or they're next to each other. I'm going to find one that is out of sign and bring it to you. It's usually when signs are planets are very near the beginning or end of signs. So I'm just going to have a look. Okay, this is, this is less of a kind of a strong one, but no, I was talking about aspects still. I hadn't gone back to the stellium question. Sorry, when questions jump like this, I haven't got to stelliums yet. I will get to them. I'm still looking for an aspect that is out of sign. So this is a square aspect that's out of sign. We have Pluto in Virgo. And a square to, that is square to the moon in Gemini, because they are both mutable signs, okay? But I would also say, and this chart agrees, that Pluto is square to Lilith, and that is out of sign, because Lilith is almost in Gemini, which would make it an exact 90-degree thing. But normally Earth to Earth would not be a square, because that's a modality. This was not, you normally look at the, like this is mutable and that is sorry, you normally look in mutable to mutable, okay, for a square, or fixed to fixed, or cardinal to cardinal. Sorry, I'm going to have a drink. I'm kind of fading a little bit. So a stellium. A stellium is a stellium. 3 or more planets. It gets stronger the more you have in that sign. It also gets stronger if it's near an angle. Would I put the moon in the 12th or the 1st? I would put it in the 12th, but I would actually read it as both, personally. I would not say you have only a 12th house moon. It's too close to the ascendant to only be a 12th house moon. You would have aspects of both. Okay. So here we go. That's probably blown your mind. Focalizers. So singletons, stellia, rulerships, stations, heavy aspects. By the time we've got our hands full. Okay. Maintaining order is everything. Okay. So you would look at that primal triad. Once you're starting to interpret, you would look at the sun, moon, ascendant. Then you would look at the overall layout of the chart. Then you would look for focalizers. And you would kind of look at the focalizers in the order I did them of importance. So, so go back through that. Okay. Then, but that's where you need to relax and take your time and just feel into the chart. Look at the planet that rules the ascendant. That's a focalizer for sure. Is there a singleton? Most charts don't have them. So just, is there a stellium? Look what jumps out at you. Okay. It's no exacts again. I want you to really start to take some time and not get all like in your head and feel a chart and see what feels most important to you. I've kind of given you the rules and you look at them, and I went through them in that order of importance. That's why I said don't pay much attention to stationary planets. If there is a planet with an S next to it about to turn retrograde or direct, if it jumps out at you and it happens to also be part of a stellium, then yes, it's important. Or it happens to be a singleton too. It may not be majorly important because it may not really be connected to anything else in the chart in a way that doesn't make it a singleton, if you see what I mean. You're still not clear what a singleton is. A singleton is a planet that is really on its own in the chart in one of the hemispheres. Okay. So I will get my daughter's chart for you, Molly's chart, and show you a true singleton. I'll just do it in the group. What if your ruling planet was retrograde in your chart? I'm not even really going to go there. It's kind of complicated, that one. Again, it's still a focalizer. Well, let's just quickly say, I would probably say that it's obviously still an important planet, and a planet that's retrograde, you feel it differently to direct. It's got a more inward emphasis in your chart, to put it briefly. Okay. Right, I think I've talked for long enough. Now then, what I would like you to do right now is I do want you to do a shamanic journey. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to actually drum myself, I think. No, I'm going to play a drum track because I'm getting tired and I need to just breathe for a little bit. Okay, Faye. No worries. We'll see you in the group. I'm just going to stop the share. Because I want you to revisit the hemispheres and the elements and the modalities with a different chart, I would like you to pick a chart, probably your own. In fact, or I'll get mine up on the screen so you've got one chart to look at. And I want you to take a good look at it, then close your eyes. So I'll share my chart. You can all go into my chart. Why not? I want you to journey into the middle of that chart. You don't have to remember it all. This is a feeling thing, remember. And I would like you to be guided to know what words and things you need to use and what feeling you need to get from the modalities, from the hemispheres, from the elements, and what it needs to feel like to you for you to start to understand it. This might sound like a really weird question to you, but to ask, but to me, it's not at all weird, of course. I'm just trying to figure out how I get back to my Chrome. Okay. I just want you to really start to feel. So I want you to do a general journey into astrology, It could mean going up into the sky for you. It could mean you might end up lying on the ground in your journey, looking up at the sky and just getting a real feel for this picture as a cosmic blueprint with you at the center on this earth. And just find out what you need to know. Just go with where the journey takes you, all right? Because astrology is really magical. Once you start to let go of this, it has to be so exact all the time. You do need to know the facts and figures, but you don't need to stay wrapped up in your head about them. Does that make sense? It's where once I let go of that and started to feel the energies, things started to open up a lot more for me. Now we're nearly at the 2 hours, so I'm going to find a nice short track if there is one. We have actually a 10-minute one here. So we're just doing this. You can do it for longer. So I'm not going to come back because 2 hours is enough for me. I'd like you to share your journeys in the group. I just want you to really start to journey into the energy of the cosmos, all right, and find out what you need to know, what you need to feel about it to help this to start making sense to you. So here we go. Okay, everybody. I'll see you in the group. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed it. Ask me as many questions as you like in the group. I'm trying to be there as much as I can, and I hope this week's class was really helpful. Bye, everybody. And homework, oh yes, homework again is to do another chart looking at focalizers as well as elements, modalities and hemispheres. Bye, everybody.